What's up, Union Arena players? This is Kyle D, better known as Universities, and today we're going to be talking none other than our good friends at December Regionals. So, if you guys are planning on going to these major events, I figure it'd be great if you guys had a good idea what you might be facing, what is the good go-tos. So, without further ado, let's dive in the video and talk about it. So let's read the room to be exact. So we know that with the unrestriction, it will change up the format, right? That's just how this works. And again, I expect a higher output of Sukuna players coming into the fray that wasn't really originally there, right? You know, this deck has so much value going for it that it's really good to kind of get an understanding of what could possibly happen. You know, status wise, it has a lot of triggers going on. You know, any comments? Nope. But cost range, it caps at 5 for only 2 of the big Sukuna, right? Of the 5 costs. But at the end of the day, we can take a look at this new metric system that EX Burst is giving us. You know, 90% first hand, only no moles. Very commonplace with 14 with 0 energy costs, starting hand 7 cards. I think, to be honest with you, it'll happen occasionally that you'll need to mole, but at the same time, that mole usually leads into having the perfect hand. So I definitely agree with this. You know, chances of having an AP 1 cost, energy 0 cost on turn 1, 97%. At least 1 with this algorithm, which, again, turn 2 energy costs, turn 1, second curve, 76%. I love this data, actually. So, you know, breakdowns. This is going to be quite useful to kind of take your chances to the next level. So definitely EX Burst giving us this immaculable, you know, data that we need is really good. I think, let's see, upgrade expensive. Let's see, upgrade rarity. So $1,000, almost $2,000 to upgrade to the highest rarities of all the cards. Wow. I love it. I love it. Rarest, so almost $1,000. I mean, I have all this, so it's basically I have this, I have this, I have these, don't have that. That's expensive. This is expensive, but all in all, yeah, let's go to the cheapest. For a $70 deck, this is not terrible, right? I think at the end of the day, we're gonna have a good shot at seeing this one coming in. And it's great to see stuff like this, right? Now, we do have Lancelot, another like $60 deck, which is very commonplace with our format that, you know, Union Arena is not expensive. Definitely agree with these because I've played this deck left and right and I understand what's going on with it. And the first hand with Mulligan option, you know, chances of having AP 1 cost, 90%, curve 2, follow-up, is a little bit of a challenge. I know that because you need to open up at least 2 of the 0 costs in your opener, or else you're not really gonna pop off. So, you know, turn 2 playable cards are highly possible. So yeah, you know, turn 2 energy cost 1 cards, we don't have those, so we just have to make sure we open up with 2 0 costs. Usually that is your mole. Again, strategy is you yeet away if you only have 1 0. There's no way, and your hand's not the prettiest. Banking on drawing that top in the top next 7 is just not worth it, in my opinion. So I usually personally mole away 1 0 hands with this deck very comfortably. But again, Lancelot just having the power behind it. That 5,000 DP threat is always scary. And the fact of the matter is, you could just slam down, you know, your 6 cost Lancelot without raiding if you needed to. That double damage is always live. And it's scary enough to put pressure in. A lot of players just can't deal with that. But the fact of the matter is, Lancelot will get you, you know, the flavor text of, you know, return this character of rated character to your hand. Again, live. Lancelot ejected none other than Suzaku. So, yeah, it's just how this goes. And I think at the end of the day, we have a lot of potential, right? Now, we do have Kenpachi. Kenpachi got such a huge boost with the binder collection. It's not even funny. The new Kenpachi just reducing this card's energy requirement by 1 while in your hand is huge. You know, that's coming in at a 3 is nonsensical, being that this card isn't affected by DP minusing abilities, which again, we have a high purple field, you know, ceiling right now of a field to deal with. You know, there's a lot of purple decks. So, you know, being Kenpachi being the Achilles heel to the format really makes a lot of sense, right? And then during turn, if this character has 35 or more BP on your opponent's front line, this character gains 1,000 DP. So as long as they're at a 4,000 DP, Kenpachi will match in energy. So just really powerful deck. This deck loves to play. The new Toshi color trigger is massively huge. Just being a 3-cost double energy when played, draw a card just helps Kenpachi. Kenpachi just wants to play on 4 anyway, and you're allowing them to do it because you have so many, you know, valued triggers now. I think this deck only has this one being its non-trigger. So it's at a whopping... Nope. I think it has only 6 non-triggers, which is huge in deck building right now. If you can get to the least amount of minus non-triggers in your deck, you're in a good spot. And then you have Sun Shui just being Sun Shui. Being able to be a searcher and being a draw on 2 is really solid. You know, being a draw trigger, but also being a searcher is very important for decks like this, especially because Kenpachi can really do some damage when he comes down. So just keep that in mind if you're building Kenpachi for these events. Now we do have Mina Ashiro. So with the combination of Reno, just if you have another character with 3 energy requirement in the same, this character becomes a 4K. But when played, play up to 1 yellow character with 3 or less required energy and 1 AP from your hand, set it to resting on your field. Really good. But the fact of the matter is, Mina is just that powerful of a card. You know, when played, choose up to 1 character on your opponent's front line, switch it to resting. If on your front line, choose 1 rested character on your opponent's front line, it gains this character remain set to resting the next time it would switch to active. So, Mina being able to lock things down is huge. Anytime you can stop a swing or set, you know, opponent back is massive. And again, as long as you have the tiger is going to just benefit you anyway, because your tiger is going to make sure that Mina has impact. But you also do have this Mina here, the 2 action point that lets you attack from the back line, creating a 5th attack. So, or a 6th attack if you have the right setup. Being able to clear out an opponent's, you know, whole turn if you're, you know, going for game. Being able to get 6 attacks in has always shown that it's very devastating in matchups because you're not always going to be able to stop what you're doing, right? You know, this card when played on the energy line, this character gains. This character can attack from the energy line until the end of turn, but activate main, choose up to 1 other character on the field, it gains 1,000 DP. Just being able to boost your stuff to 5Ks is really good. And then when attacking, if Bako's on the same line, draw up to 1 card. You know, this is where the filtering comes from, as long as you can kind of use your Bakos at the right time. You know, Bako's going to be living your energy line a little bit. So just keep that in mind, especially this Bako is just super important. Protection skills is really good. You know, being in the force discard something is vitally important to deal with. So just something to think about there. But Mina definitely has a lot going for it. This deck being able to stun and still keep up an aggressive front is huge. Lancelot. We know what this deck has come to. Sorry, not Lancelot. Gawain and Gurin. So basically purple code. With Zangetsu, this card definitely helped the deck out a little bit by choosing up to... You're not really choosing, you know, affiliates as often for Holy Swords, so you're not really caring about the play cost here. It's definitely because it's an impact target, and it's always live as long as you have rated. Because you are going to be playing the 0 cost here, it's not bad to have a raid target for it, right? Because again, evolving up makes a lot of sense. Even if you just had to hard play this 4K'd, it's really scary. You know, the Gurins are really powerful. Gawain being able to minus the board is proven beneficial time and time again. Now we do have purple Saito being able to snipe from the back line and move forwards is huge. This lets you get around, if you swing in and that in the front line first and then Saito up, this allows you to be super aggressive. Bigger issue though with this deck is that you aren't playing enough zeros, but you do play the 2-cost Hajime, Saito, that becomes a 0 cost if the field is empty, which again, time and time again, this should happen. So you kind of get this flex spot where it's 0s and 2s, but again, one of the bigger issues of this deck is it doesn't have a draw engine behind it. So if you lose out in tempo, this deck will hurt you. You will go down to like a 1 to 2 card hand size if you're not cautious enough. Very easy to just empty board and just go for that, right? So definitely this deck is a contender for the meta. It proves time and time again this thing is a well-rounded beast. And then we do have none other than the Tanjiro brothers. So younger is scary as hell. Impact in double damage 3. When played, all characters on your opponent's front line loses 1000 DP until the end of turn. Choose up to one character with 4000 DP on your opponent's front line. Sideline it. So just very powerful skill. Even just younger brother is a 4000 DP for a 5. Sideline one other character on the field. If you do choose up to one character on your opponent's front line, it loses 2000 DP until the end of turn. This character gains impact. So again, they're both very powerful threats. And you do have access to Elder Tanjiro that is a nullify impact, but during your turn, when this character is sidelined or returned to hand from field, reduce the energy requirement of all younger cards in your hand by 2 until the end of the next time you would play a younger Tanjiro is played on the field. So means that your 5 cost becomes a 3 cost and your 8 cost becomes a 6 cost. Very comfortable. When sidelined, you may place one card from your hand into your sideline. If you do, add this card to your hand. Not terrible. Just being able to, this card is sidelined or returned to hand. Just being able to minus that 2 is just what this card wants to do. And it just synergizes so well. And it's such a threat to deal with. This deck is going to be one of those contenders you have to be ready for because if you're not prepared, you're going to be struggling. Now, this deck, a lot of people probably don't have a lot of reps against. Binder stuff, especially because Bleach people were complaining they didn't get their stuff. Didn't get that in time to pre-order and now they're out. Because we play this Renji here, this boy here is allowing you to double damage, but because you get the backup of Byakuya Kuchiki that basically can minus the board and use Simbo and Sakurai to, minus kill off a 4K and then maybe minus something 2K, means you're just a threat and a half, right? So it's tough to think about when you're just deck building and stuff. This deck has a lot of pressure for it. I mean, just going Byakuya Kuchiki minus something 3K and then go right into Renji is huge. Just because that's now killing off most 4Ks in a combo. You do have Byakuya Kuchiki that looks at the top 3 cards of your deck, place up to 1 of them into the sideline, then place the remaining cards on the top of your deck in any order. Just solid there. And then you got the 5 cost Renji here that's activated. If you can only activate it this ability if there's a character with BP less than the base BP of your opponent's front line. Switch it to this character active. You can only activate this Renji's ability hard once per turn. Not bad being able to have a 5 cost come in active, by just activating one Byakuya Kuchiki's raid time. So stuff like that's important. And then, we do have the 2 cost Byakuya. This one being able to, choose up to one character on the front line and loses 1000 DP. Similar to the color trigger being able to minus 500 DP. But, this one being able to do 1000 is super important without a trigger. If you look at it, I think this deck has a trigger for everything minus this guy. So he is at a 6 trigger deck. I think this deck has a lot going for it, and a lot of players will be extremely surprised when this deck comes down. Red Kenshin, the deck to beat, really. Just kidding. Not anymore, really. A lot of people have adapted their lists to be evolved to deal with Red Kenshin, but it is a deck that is classified Gatekeeper. If your deck can't handle what Red Kenshin dishes out, more than likely you should not be playing that deck, right? It puts a standard of gatekeeping out. So it's just something you need to keep out on because or you have to adapt your playstyle and be ready. Kenshin rewards you for thinking outside the box to deal with it. Again, throwing stuff early to kind of soak up damage, because once you get to the late stages, Kenshin struggles on getting their final push damage, right? Now, again, that's all the decks I think will do extremely well. I mean, honorable mention, we do have, Todo Swap. Again, another great deck that players will be playing in the event. But all in all, I think we covered a lot of good decks that we'll possibly see play during this event. So just be ready for these. Get your reps against them. I mean, you could see green Yu Yu Hakusho, because I've been seeing some people say that it's a good deck. Nikkei, I would say probably the yellow deck would be your biggest fear, and Dorothy. But to be honest with you, those are probably they're still not the highest tier for a major event, but it's up to you how you want to see. But guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you next one. Peace.